to have someone who would be able to to express the chesed. For example, Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was sitting by the entrance of his tent, and it says he felt in agony. There was no one around to do generous deeds with. It was a sunny day, it was a hot day, he needed someone to do deeds with, and there was no one who he can do the deeds with because no one was around. Which meant that Avraham Avinu, being a generous person, he needed to exercise his character traits and his emotions coming down in a practical sense, and therefore he needs to have people around him. Emotions and the character traits relate and are shared with people around us. Intellect, not necessarily, unless a person is teaching something. But otherwise, when a person is delving into his own studies, one studies and is actually doing research and is going deeper and deeper into the bottom of a certain thing that he wants to understand, comprehend it in a very logical way, he prefers that he needs to have it quiet around him. He prefers that the more he is away from the commotion of the world around him, it is more helpful. The Rebbe once said that the biggest success that he has in time is at night, when the whole world is sleeping. And the Rebbe says, that's when I can work peacefully. Although the Rebbe also worked in the daytime, and he definitely did work, but this was something that the Rebbe felt is a very auspicious time. I mean, our sages tell us that learning at night is a very special blessing. It says a charm of goodness, a streak of charm is placed on the person in the daytime when he learns at night, when he studies at night. Okay, so now that we have...
When is night? When is night?
Here we go. Night starts by Tzeisak Echovim.
I know, but that's what it meant. That's what it's meant by it.
It's night, right? It's basically... it says at night only. It says, Kol ha'aleim etera balayla, chut shel chesed mashach olavayim. A streak of charm is placed over him at night, in the daytime. Okay, so now we're going to discuss where this Mitzrayim comes in. Because emotions are peaceful. The intellect is peaceful, a peaceful mode, and emotions is commotion. So therefore then, in order that when a person should from his intellect react with a certain emotional feeling, he needs to have a certain buffer between the intellect and emotions. This buffer actually converts from intellect to emotions. And this allows that an emotion should be ignited. I'm saying the word ignited because it is like a flame. It is like a flame in a person's heart that just lights up. And therefore there's a need for that once there's a buffer, so that minimizes in a certain sense the intellectual part, and then it opens up the way that and opens the space and allows that emotion should begin. On the other hand, one brings the other. The intellect brings the emotions by a mature person. The reason that a person reacts with an emotional feeling is because they thought about it, and they reacted after thinking about it, that this is a very valuable thing, this is a very important thing, this is a very special person, this is a very beloved topic. So this is something that brings out an emotion of the heart. So therefore, in a sense, there is a direct link between the intellect and emotions, but a very minimal level of intellect in order that to allow that the emotions should begin happening. So therefore, it is just like a little match that is thrown into a flammable place, at a little flame, and that flame gets everything going. But it starts from the intellect. So it's from the intellect to the emotions. This buffer is called Meitzer Hagorim. It's called Meitzer, the constriction. Hagorim. Gorim is the throat. It is the throat which is between the intellect and the emotions. And that part is considered the buffer that converts from one mode to another mode. Chassidus gives a very interesting example for that. The example for that is, if you want to, for example, plant something. You're throwing a pit into the ground. And you're doing everything else you need that in order it should grow. Then after a while, it starts growing. But there is something between the time, in other words, there's something happening between the time of the pit that was thrown in and the new fruit that is starting to grow. The fruit, the vines, the whatever it is. What happens between? That pit rots. What is the reason for that? Because in order that from one entity, another entity should take place, there needs to be a null in between. That null is called ayin. Ayin with an aleph. It's called yesh, ayin, and yesh. In order there should be a connection between two entities, there needs to be a nullification in the middle. And that nullification is actually the process of becoming decomposed. It's actually rotting away, this pit. And because it rots away, it becomes a vessel to bring out the infinite potential that is in the ground of growing, a new sprout, a new growing, a new blossom. Which this is the infinite, this is the godly energy that is in the ground, growing something from nothing. And that is through the vessel of becoming nothing. Because it becomes null, it becomes the true vessel for the infinite energy that's there, and therefore it then allows a beginning of a new tree or a new branch or whatever grows after that.
How does that align to what happens in our life?
In our life, it means very simple. It means that actually, it's just a step ahead, but I was going to quote it anyway. The Rebbe writes in the Ayem Yem, Mitzrayim is from the word Meitzar and Gvul, restriction and limitation. In the spiritual sense, the exile of Mitzrayim means that the animal soul limits itself. Puts a border and conceals on the godly soul. To such an extent that the godly soul is being restricted, shrunk, and concealed. This is what it means, Golus Mitzrayim. There is a meitzah, there is a restriction around the godly soul. And the godly soul could not function. And the leaving Mitzrayim means removing that constriction and boundary. What does that mean in fullest sense? That the intellect and the mind functions and shines in the heart, in the good traits, in a practical sense, which means that there is a communication between mind and heart. Now let's not forget, there was another thing that happened when they went out of Egypt. Happened exactly then. The war with Amalek. Amalek came and waged war with the Jewish nation. What is Amalek? Chazal, our sages tell us, Amalek means coldness. It's like everybody was afraid to get into a hot bath, and suddenly one guy says, I'll jump in, I'll show you it's nothing. And he jumps in, and he cooled it off for others, because in a sense, others felt more comfortable now, maybe we should go in. This is how our sages, in anthology, in Rashi, that's how it's explained in the commentaries on Chumash. Comes Hasidus, brings out a very basic service, and also explaining an obstacle that could take place by a person when he tries to connect to Hashem with emotions. And that is, Amalek is also coldness. Amalek cools off a person and says, what are you getting excited? You're thinking about the godliness, the greatness of God, the Almighty? No problem. I'll help you think. I'm also into it. But don't let it get to your emotions. Don't get excited about it. Let it just remain there and finished. Therefore, Amalek is considered the one that separates between the two letters of Hashem's name. It says, Ein Hashem Shalem Ve'ein Akisei Shalem. The name of Hashem and the throne of Hashem will not be complete till Amalek will be wiped off. What is the name of Hashem? There's 4 letters. There's Yud-Kei and